last thing is
Yo!
the tax cut. Can I mention one other thing on that? So really related. I'll go back there next. Country of origin labeling. We need to have country of origin labeling in this country, and we need to enforce it. People need to know what they're buying and where what they're buying is coming from, and we ought to be encouraging people to buy local because it's good for the local economy. All those products coming from China, they have a huge carbon footprint. They're contributing to global warming. No question about that. So country of origin labeling, also encouraging people to buy local. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am. Here it is.
First of all, I want to thank you for being here. Yes. For putting yourself through all of this just in time.
Oh, you are. Thank you.
And the question I have is, how are you going to fight those lobbyists? Keep those drug companies, the insurance companies from keeping you down?
The question is, she said some nice things about me right again, which I appreciate. And then she said, why are you going to fight the lobbyists and keep them from so that they don't stop you from doing the things you want to do? I think there are different views about this. I have a very clear view myself. I mean, some people would say the way you deal with Washington lobbyists is you give them a seat at the table and you work with them. See, my view is, and history proves, you give them a seat at the table, they eat all the food. There won't be anything left. And they are not going to give their power away voluntarily. I think that's a complete fantasy, that you can work with these people. If you can work with them, we would have universal health care today. I mean, the reason we don't have universal health care is they have no interest in seeing anything change. And they're willing to spend millions and millions of dollars to keep anything from changing. So I think we have to do several things. One, I think I as president have to convince America that we got to take these interests on. That in other words, we want universal health care, that they know there's going to be millions of dollars spent on television to try to stop it, and America is going to have to show some backbone and courage and stand up against it. America plus the President of the United States. And I think that's where the power is. The second thing is we got to take away their financial power. Because what they do is they lobby during the day, and then at night they have fundraisers. They give money and raise money for members of Congress. Yeah, I think we ought to. First of all, I think I don't take money from Washington lobbyists. I never have. But I think it's a good. I think all of us should do that in the Democratic Party voluntarily. We should do that. I think we ought to go. Yes, we should outlaw it, but I think we ought to go further than that. I think we ought to publicly finance all of our campaigns to get the money out of politics. That's the ultimate aim. Those two things together, getting America galvanized around taking action and standing up to these people, and also taking away their power by changing the way we finance political campaigns. I think the system in Washington is broken. I think it's rigged and broken, and it doesn't work, and we have to change it if we want to change all these things like universal health care.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have an opinion.
Well, I mean, they're going to have Bill Clinton for Monica Lewinsky.
They did. I know. I was there fighting against it.
That's nothing.
Iowa Parks, I'm from Maria, Iowa. I was going to ask you about this, but since you brought up global warming, with our economy and gas prices, I watched a documentary, and we make cars for Brazil that runs on alcohol. And they said they can even make alcohol out of switchblade grass. Don't know what that is. I don't know if you have to adapt the cars we run on now. But if we're making this, why does our government act like we have no alternatives, that we have to keep using petroleum and crude oil, and when we're killing our planet, and we are the biggest culprits? You know, we use 22% that's being used on this planet. My question is, can we get somebody to do something and make our public aware so the public will fight for that right?
Yes. It's a very good question. I think our dependence on oil and our addiction to oil is deadly to America.
Yes.
Deadly. And you pointed this out. I mean, we're 4% of the world's population. We put out 25% of the world's greenhouse gas. We're the worst polluter on the planet.
Yes.
We use 22 million barrels of oil a day. And this is a crisis. I mean, this issue of global warming is a crisis. And not just for our children and our grandchildren, for all of us. And we've got to do something right now. Now, well, I can tell you what I think we should do. What I would do as president is cap carbon emissions for the whole country. And then I would bring that cap down each year. And I think we ought to reduce our carbon emissions by at least 80% by the year 2050. We might have to do more than that. Because every time we get more scientific information, the problem is worse.
But we're already, my question, we're already making these cars for another country.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to the car. But I think this is part of a bigger picture.
Okay.
I think we ought to auction off the right to emit any carbon to the big companies who emit carbon under the cap. And then we ought to use that money to invest in every clean, renewable source of energy. Wind, solar, cellulose-based biofuels, all of which are important. And then I think we ought to, I mean, I hear what you're saying about alcohol, but I think what America really needs to do is we need to put at least $1 billion into ensuring that our car companies are building the most fuel-efficient vehicles on the planet. For example, some of these plug-in hybrids, which I have seen, they're extraordinary in what they're capable of doing. But they're just not mass-produced, and people aren't using them, except for a few isolated people around the country. But we have to look at every alternative. And then I also think that I think the President of the United States should ask Americans to be patriotic about something other than war. To say, if we want to be strong, if we want to be independent, we're going to have to actually, and this is a word you don't hear from presidential candidates much, sacrifice. We're actually going to have to be willing to sacrifice. You're going to have to drive more fuel-efficient cars. You're going to have to conserve in your homes and in your workplaces. It's the only way. You cannot just spin and innovate your way out of this problem. All of us are going to have to take. You want to ask to follow up?
On this documentary, I'm a documentary junkie. I love this stuff.
I can say that.
But on this documentary, in 50 years, there is not going to be any crude oil to go get to even have an efficiency there. It'll be gone.
We have to change, and we have to change now. We can't put this off. We can't kick this can down the road and say somebody else, our children, can take care of them. This is a crisis right now, and the President of the United States. And it's not, by the way, this global warming issue is not an issue just for America. But right now, we don't have any credibility. Because we're the worst polluter on the planet, nobody will listen to us. If we start doing the right things, then we can actually go to the rest of the world and fashion a global solution to this problem, which is what we should be doing.
Yes.